blending culture and artistry in one elegant evening. Gala dinner. A warm greeting by the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Announcing the arrival of His Excellency Premier of the People's Republic of China.
Arriving next is Premier of People's Republic of China.
Announcing the arrival of the Honourable Prime Minister of Australia.
And let's give the attention to the arrival of Prime Minister of Australia. Both leaders exchange a warm handshake and a few cordial words.
Announcing the arrival of His Excellency, President of the European Council.
Arriving next is the President of the European Council.
Announcing the arrival of His Excellency
Now the arrival of President of Timor-Leste. cordial handshake and exchange of greetings marks this moment, reflecting the close and growing partnership between Malaysia and Timor-Leste.
Announcing the arrival of His Excellency, President of the Republic of Philippines and spouse.
And this is the arrival of the President of the Republic of Philippines. And the distinguished couple are warmly greeted by the Honorable Datuk Sri Anwar
Announcing the
Ibrahim
arrival of
and
His
Datuk Sri Dr. Wan
Excellency,
Azizah
Prime
Wan
Minister
Ismail.
of the Kingdom of Cambodia and spouse. Announcing the arrival of His Excellency, President of Federative Republic of Brazil and spouse.
The Prime Minister of Cambodia. And next, the arrival of the President of the Federative Republic of Brazil and his spouse. Also warmly greeted by Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim and Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail.
Announcing the arrival of His Majesty, Sultan and Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam.
And now the arrival of His Majesty, Sultan and Yang di-Pertuan of Brunei Darussalam. that all leaders and guests are now arrived, the host escort the leaders to the main dining area. And the lights soften and the mood turns festive as the gala dinner will officially begin.
A night of celebration, reflection, and regional friendship.
The evening sky, their lights shimmering like jewels illuminating
spouses, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat datang, as we say here in Malaysia, and welcome to the Gala dinner in conjunction with the 47th ASEAN Summit and related summits. I'm Cik Puan Sarima Ibrahim.
And I'm Terence Das. This evening, it's a special occasion for all of us to pause, reflect on the fruitful discussions of the summits, and to celebrate the strengthening bonds of friendship that tie all ASEAN member states, our dialogue partners, and friends of ASEAN together.
That really energetic opening performance earlier was by Zeppo Youngsters and Artisana Istana Budaya. I think they deserve a warm round of applause. It was very energetic. It was like a mixture fusion of Zapin meets breakdancing. Okay, so this next segment, though, however, is slightly different. It is bringing together the extraordinary talents of Malaysia and from the best of ASEAN performing arts. It's going to feature an elegant discipline of ballet to the rhythmic heartbeat of traditional Zapin. These performances are a tribute put together to the shared heritage and unity of ASEAN.
So sit back, ladies and gentlemen, relax and enjoy yourselves. Allow yourselves to be moved by the spirit of these performances in celebration of Aspirasi Madani spirit and the best of ASEAN performing arts.
Budaya kita Indonesia. ดวงจันทร์เอ๋ยแรงพลือตรอจองวงจันทร์โผพองอาบอ่องมองพลือโลกาแรงไม่สรอตนตรอจัง
soil. One day I'll finally know your soul. One day I'll come to you to say hello, Vietnam. One day I'll come to you to say hello, Vietnam. To say xin chào, Vietnam.
We hope you enjoyed that colorful performance from the future of ASEAN.
That's right. The best of ASEAN performing arts. Did you see they were so cute, Terence, from all across ASEAN? They put so much effort into tonight's performance.
His Majesty, His Royal Highness, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government and spouses, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Up next is a performance that unites the brilliance of three of Malaysia's finest orchestras. The Orchestra Traditional Malaysia, OTM, Orchestra Symphony Kebangsaan, OSK, and the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra, which have been entertaining There's more music coming your way, ladies and gentlemen, as our performances will be continually entertaining you tonight with a blend of culture, heritage, and of course, wonderful music. 3 orchestras, 1 awesome sound.
I just feel, Terrence, just now when they were doing the medley, right? I felt like I recognized way too many of those songs. Like nampak sangat my age, kan?
Absolutely.
Especially Bryan Adams kat situ. So because we hear the demand is so high, therefore, as you said, the music continues. And I believe we're almost just ready. I was just thinking Bernice Wong with her sand art just now. It would be an absolute blast to go to the beach with her. Can you imagine? What a unique situation.
And her sand art will continually adorn the projection screens right
Lovely.
here, displaying her array of talent. And we're going to be continually entertaining you, as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen, with a wonderful set of performances shortly, including some of the legends of the stage here in
My
Malaysia.
Goodness, like the best of the best are going to perform here, ladies and gentlemen. We have some vocal powerhouses, multi-award singing artists. It's just going to be fantastic.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please continue to sit back, relax, and enjoy your dinner. More to come from our performances in just a short moment.
His Majesty, His Royal Highness, Excellencies, Heads of State.
Десять тысяч.
The 10,000
para intensificar nuestros esfuerzos de lograr el restablecimiento de la paz y la estabilidad. La Declaración de Nueva York para la implementación de la solución de los dos estados, junto con el Plan de Paz estadounidense, abren un nuevo espacio esperanzador para el diálogo y la diplomacia. La presión de la comunidad internacional ha sido determinante para cesar las hostilidades y liberar a los rehenes. Reconocemos y agradecemos la labor de los medios
We're very grateful to the mediators, and we welcome the US
de transferencias debidas por parte del gobierno de Israel, España, junto con Noruega, Francia, Arabia Saudí, lanzamos la coalición de emergencia para Palestina, un instrumento financiero temporal para reforzar capacidades de la autoridad palestina. Instamos a todos los aquí presentes a apoyarlo. Por otra parte, en relación a los órganos de gobernanza transitorios, urgimos a que se incluya la autoridad palestina. Estos órganos deben eventualmente ceder a la autoridad palestina las plenas funciones de gobierno en Gaza y Cisjordania. Hasta entonces, continuemos reforzando la autoridad palestina para garantizar financiero. En materia de seguridad y estabilización, en cuanto a la reconstrucción, alineemos nuestros esfuerzos y movilicemos los fondos necesarios. Con este objetivo apoyamos la conferencia que convocará Egipto en las próximas semanas. A pesar de los avances, permítanme incidir en la gravedad de la crisis humanitaria que continúa azotando a la población gazatí. La entrada rápida y urgente de ayuda humanitaria a gran escala sigue siendo una prioridad absoluta. España saluda el dictamen consultivo de la Corte Internacional de Justicia que determina inequívocamente las obligaciones de derecho internacional humanitario de Israel como potencia ocupante en Palestina. Hacemos un firme llamamiento para que las agencias de Naciones Unidas, particularmente UNRWA y la ONGs internacionales puedan operar sobre el terreno sin obstáculos y con ello aliviar el sufrimiento de 2 millones de palestinos que viven en la franja. Señora Presidenta, una paz duradera en la región pasa necesariamente por la restauración del respeto de los principios de las Cartas de Naciones Unidas, incluyendo el respeto a la integridad territorial, especialmente en Líbano y Siria. Respecto al Líbano, España reitera su llamamiento a las partes para que cumplan íntegramente con la resolución 1701 de este Consejo de Seguridad. Su apoyo a la estabilidad del Líbano, especialmente a través de MIFIL, que sigue desempeñando un papel fundamental sobre el terreno. España condena además los recientes ataques de Israel cerca de las posiciones de MIFIL y exige que se respete su mandato y que las partes garanticen la seguridad de su personal. Es necesario que la comunidad internacional incremente su apoyo a las Fuerzas Armadas libanesas y a las fuerzas de seguridad interior para que puedan asumir las tareas que les han sido encomendadas. España seguirá apoyando al pueblo sirio para avanzar en una transición política pacífica e inclusiva y exige que se respete la soberanía e integridad territorial de Siria, sin interferencias desestabilizadoras de terceros países. La estabilidad de Siria es clave para lograr una paz duradera en la región. España reitera que no existe alternativa militar a una solución diplomática que asegure la naturaleza exclusivamente pacífica del programa nuclear iraní. Urge retomar las negociaciones de inmediato para alcanzar un acuerdo cuanto antes. Tenemos la posibilidad de poner fin a este ciclo de violencia en la región y para lograrlo, España seguirá apostando por el diálogo con los socios regionales para aunar esfuerzos a favor de la paz y la estabilidad en Oriente Próximo. Muchas gracias.
I thank the representative of Spain for his statement, and I give the floor now to the representative of Namibia.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the Security Council, I wish to extend our gratitude to the Russian Federation for convening this important meeting and to the briefers for their insightful contribution regarding the ongoing situation in Gaza. Madam President, recent developments in the conflict have been alarming and heartbreaking. While we welcome the diplomatic efforts to end the violence, including the recent Gaza Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh and the signing of the plan to cease hostilities in Gaza, we must recognize that these steps, though commendable, do not yet signify the end of the enduring suffering that the Palestinian population has faced for decades. The full implementation of the provisions agreed upon is crucial, and we urge the Israeli apartheid regime to uphold its commitments to the Sharm el-Sheikh Agreement. The occupying power must demonstrate genuine dedication to international law and fulfill its obligations as a member of this esteemed organization. We are encouraged by the return of thousands of Palestinians to what remains of their homes in northern Gaza, following the unprecedented destruction of their properties and the loss of life of the Palestinians in their thousands. Like all the peoples across the world, the Palestinian people have an undeniable right to a dignified return to peace and to self-determination, rights that they have been denied for too long. As we move forward, Namibia emphasizes the urgent need to rebuild the infrastructure across Gaza, which is essential for the restoration of normalcy and dignity for its inhabitants. This meeting is an opportunity to remind us that the General Assembly resolutions and the International Court of Justice's advisory opinions have declared Israel settlement practices as illegal and have demanded an end to these actions. Up to now, Israel, the occupying power, has disregarded all the rulings and thus disregarding international law. In light of the recent positive momentum marked by the successful convening of the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the
of the UN for Palestine, ensure immediate, safe, and unhindered humanitarian, sustained, structured, and transparent peace process that delivers reconciliation, reconstruction, and accountability. The endgame must be lasting peace, a future where sovereign Palestine lives in peace, security, and mutual respect within the internationally recognized pre-1967 borders. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Maldives for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Italy.
Thank you, Madam President. Italy aligns itself with the statement delivered on behalf of the European Union and its member states, and wish to offer the following remarks in our national capacity. The Sharm el-Sheikh Summit for Peace marked a pivotal moment for the Middle East. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the liberation of the hostages, and the resumption of humanitarian in the Gaza Strip bring us a step closer to peace. These remarkable progresses have been made possible by the Gaza conflict put forward by President Trump. Italy strongly supports the US initiative and is ready to contribute to its full implementation. We call all parties to respect the agreements. Hamas must cease its rule over Gaza, as it cannot play any role in the future of Palestine. Italy will continue to support the Palestinian Authority and its program of reforms, with a view to realize Palestinian statehood and the unification of Gaza and the West Bank. In the meantime, it's urgent to enhance humanitarian assistance in close coordination with the United Nations and international civil society organizations. In the last 2 years, the Italian government has stepped up efforts at the benefit of the civilian population in Gaza in close coordination with regional partners. Italy has been at the forefront of the humanitarian response, sending critical aid with the Food for Gaza initiative and evacuating 196 Palestinian young patients, along with their families, for medical treatment. We are ready to expand our efforts for the reconstruction of Gaza on health. In this spirit, the deployment of the International Stabilization Force can make a huge difference. Italy will contribute to this mission in line with our long-standing commitment to security in the area and our role in the high-level conference on the two-state solutions. We believe that a clear mandate of the Security Council would give legitimacy to this force, opening up to the contribution of the Arab states and the entire UN membership. We call on the Security Council members to adopt such a resolution in order to allow us to move forward with the US 20-point plan. Peace in Gaza is a unique opportunity for the regional stability that we cannot miss. Never before have the countries of the Middle East seemed so interconnected. Last year brought major developments, namely the fall of the Assad regime and the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, which helped break the political deadlock. We are now called upon to support Syria and Lebanon in meeting these challenges ahead. In Syria, Italy supports an inclusive and peaceful political process to achieve, through the active participation of all components of Syrian society, the recovery of the country. Internal and external factors threaten Syria's unity and stability. We welcomed the roadmap announced by Damascus with the US and Jordan to address the crisis in Suaida, and we support the implementation of the agreement with the SDF. We hope that Syria would be soon ready to join the international fight against terrorism. Turning to Lebanon, to ensure institutional strengthening is key. Italy will not fail to help the Lebanese authorities stabilize the country and undertake critical reforms. Respect for the ceasefire on both sides of the Blue Line, the disarmament of Hezbollah, and the monopoly of the state over the holding of weapons are essential parts of it. And at the head of UNIFIL for the 5th time, Italy will continue to strengthen the Lebanese forces in order to facilitate their full redeployment in line with the UNSC Resolution 7001. For Italy, there is a real chance to achieve a positive transformation in the entire region. We remain steadfast in our belief that dialogue, inclusiveness, and multilateral cooperation are the only viable foundations for the lasting peace in the Middle East. The road ahead is challenging, but the window of opportunity is real. The international community and the UN have a role to play in helping overcome divisions and build the future of shared security, mutual recognition, and hope. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Italy for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Chile.
Madam President, allow me to thank you for convening this debate, and I'd like to congratulate you on the conduct of your presidency during this month. We'd also like to thank Mr. Ramiz Alakbarov, Deputy Special Coordinator and Resident Coordinator of the Office of the Special Coordinator of the United Nations for the Middle East. Process. Chile endorses the statement delivered by Uganda on behalf of the non-aligned movement. My country welcomes the signing on the 8th of October of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, and we'd like to express our thanks for the mediation efforts deployed by the United States, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, which made this important step forward possible in order to reduce hostilities and protect the civilian population. Since the beginning of the conflict, Chile has constantly called for the unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas, and in this regard we very much appreciate the return of the 20 hostages alive and the 15 deceased back to their families, and we express our solidarity with all of them. At the same time, we recognize and encourage the ongoing efforts aimed at locating the remaining bodies. We would call upon the signatories to the agreement to, in good faith, meet the acquired commitments according to the terms established, and continue to make necessary efforts to achieve a comprehensive agreement to adequately respond to humanitarian needs and guarantee the security, safety of the population, and move towards the implementation of the two-state solution in accordance with the rulings of international law and relevant resolutions of the United Nations. Madam President, Chile, as part of the core group led by Norway, very much appreciates the advisory opinion issued last Wednesday by the International Court of Justice, establishing the obligation of Israel to meet its international humanitarian law obligations, protect medical and humanitarian staff, and facilitate humanitarian assistance through the United Nations and its agencies, with particular reference to UNRWA. This decision is a fundamental reminder of the primacy of international law and of the responsibility of all states to guarantee unhindered access for humanitarian assistance when it is most required. We'd also like to reiterate our unrestricted support for the valuable work done by all humanitarian staff, in particular by UNRWA, an organism, a body that has the mandate to carry out a fundamental mission and provide services in the area of education, health, housing, and protection of Palestinian refugees. We believe it is the backbone of the humanitarian system. UNRWA has vast experience in order to implement the humanitarian response in Gaza in an appropriate manner. Madam President, despite these successes, we see that after years of conflict and the recent declaration of hunger, famine in the Gaza Strip, the occupied Palestinian territories continue to be an area of violence and instability, seriously endangering the well-being of the civilian population, and we see that humanitarian assistance is being hindered. Here we would urgently call upon all the parties to fully meet their obligations with regard to the ceasefire and to resume the path of dialogue in good faith. This is the only way to achieve just and lasting peace. We believe it is essential to put an end to the suffering of the civilian population. Their lives have deteriorated in an unacceptable manner. Improving the future of Gaza means a recovery perspective that is inclusive and sustainable, that takes into account the needs of women, elder persons, young people, children and those with disabilities. Their full and meaningful participation in the decision-making processes will be key for building the future of Gaza. Chile reiterates its firm and ongoing commitment to a political and peaceful solution to the conflict based on respect for international law, the protection of human rights, and the full respect for the principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter. We would also highlight the importance of diplomacy, dialogue, and international mediation as indispensable tools in order to progress towards stability and the building of just, lasting, and sustainable peace in the region. Thank you.
I thank
These steps must mark crucial progress, but there remains much work to do to achieve a just and lasting peace. We must build on this momentum with renewed political courage. We commend the significant efforts led by the President of the United States of America and Israel, who are experiencing much needed breathing space. Following the mayhem that they have encountered over the last 2 years. In this context, we urge all parties to adhere fully to the terms of the ceasefire and to ensure that it becomes a durable bridge towards a permanent end to the bloodshed and suffering. Madam President, tens of thousands of civilians, most of them innocent women and children, have lost their lives. The devastation of homes, hospitals, and schools, and the collapse of essential services defy comprehension. The images of such human and infrastructural destruction will remain seared into our collective conscience for generations to come. Healing must be all-encompassing, requiring not only the rebuilding of physical structures, but also the restoration of dignity, security, and trust. The people of Gaza must be supported in this effort through immediate humanitarian aid, medical and psychosocial support, and the long-term reconstruction of essential infrastructure. Madam President, the situation in Gaza remains deeply distressing. Sri Lanka recognizes the Palestinian people's inalienable right to their own state and reiterates the importance of the early implementation of the UN General Assembly resolutions regarding a two-state solution on the basis of the 1967 borders. It is time for the international community to act decisively to bring an end to the suffering of millions. The humanitarian tragedy in Gaza only makes more urgent the need for restraint and honest dialogue. Madam President, international community must unite around the shared principles of humanity, justice, and peace. We must support the Palestinian and Israeli peoples in prioritizing peace. We hope that the ceasefire will be the first step towards a lasting peace, one in which both Israel and Palestine live peacefully side by side, and the children of both nations are free to reach their full potential and thrive. I thank you, President.
Я благодарю представителя Шри-Ланки за его заявление, и сейчас я предоставляю слово его превосходительству господину Маджиду Абделазизу, постоянному наблюдателю в постоянной миссии наблюдателя от Лиги арабских государств при Организации Объединенных Наций.
شكرا سيدة الرئيس.
أشكركم على عقد هذه الجلسة وأشكر السيد رمزي ألبانوف نائب منسق الخاص والمقيم لعملية السلام في الشرق
Deputy Special Coordinator for the Middle East process for his comprehensive briefing. Madam President, this open debate takes place as the dangerous situation in Gaza and across the occupied Palestinian state is at a major crossroads. There is a glimmer of hope, but there are also deep fears of failure in the implementation began with the release of Israeli hostages and the handover of the remains of others, and the release in return of a number of Palestinian detainees as a prelude to implementing other steps to promote international engagement with the current humanitarian situation. This includes putting an end to the starvation and genocide and ensuring the delivery of humanitarian aid with the start of the implementation of recovery and reconstruction plans. be followed by reaching the desired political settlement of the Palestinian cause through negotiations for a final solution between Palestinians and Israelis to implement the two-state solution, paving the way towards the full membership of the independent state of Palestine in the United Nations. The Arab League would like to begin by expressing its appreciation for the efforts of the U.S. President Trump and his growing interest in reaching a peaceful settlement for the Palestinian cause. We also express appreciation for the intensive mediation by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the United States to reach a ceasefire. We really appreciate the role of the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee entrusted with implementing the two-state solution, chaired by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Reach a ceasefire. We really appreciate the role of the Arab Islamic Ministerial Committee entrusted with implementing the two-state solution, chaired by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Egypt is working to hold an international conference to mobilize the necessary funding for the implementation of this plan. We stress the need for Israel to implement the important ICJ advisory opinion adopted on October 22nd, which confirmed Israel's humanitarian and development obligations as an occupying power towards the UN, specifically UNRWA, and the occupied Palestinian people, including its obligation to stop the genocide and the deliberate starvation of the Palestinian people. However, this cannot succeed without the United Nations' central role in implementing the New York Declaration, which created an internationally supported political horizon for addressing the Palestinian cause in all its dimensions, not just the Gaza Strip. By implementing the two-state solution and ensuring the admission of the independent state of Palestine as a full member of the United Nations. This is reinforced by the remarkable success of the Ministerial Conference and World Summit held at the United Nations on the implementation of the two-state solution and the settlement of the Palestinian question. Under the leadership of Saudi Arabia and France. This resulted in a significant increase in the number of pledged by the Palestinian Authority and the provision of the necessary financial resources for the Palestinian government to allow it, as the Supreme Central Palestinian Authority, to extend its full control over the Palestinian territories, including the entire Gaza Strip and the West Bank, away from any other schemes or external or Israeli influence. The International Stabilization Force will be established with the approval and active participation Authority in preparation for the transfer of its powers to the Palestinian Authority once the situation stabilizes. For this to happen, the extreme right-wing Israeli government must stop daydreaming and must seize its pursuit of what it calls the dream of Greater Israel. The countries of the Middle East, especially Arab countries, will not allow Israel or any other state to dominate the Middle East region under any circumstance, no matter how superior their military capabilities are with external military support. It also requires that Israel realize that its condemned military aggression against the state of Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and recently the state of Qatar will not serve its interests in the short or long term, but will lead to a larger regional confrontation with dire consequences. It should also realize that its deliberate withholding of billions of clearing funds strengthens the control of extremist forces over the
المسيحية التي تحتاج مننا كل الدعم والتأييد.
needs all our and other Muslim and Christian holy sites only entrenches hatred and anger and threatens any chance of coexistence in peace and harmony. It should realize that the continuation of its fierce settlement policies, which violate Resolution 2334 and others, will not diminish the Palestinian people's attachment to recovering their stolen and that its policies of starvation and terrorism and its obstruction of reconstruction will not allow it to control the Gaza Strip or the West Bank, nor will it
The Kingdom condemns the Israeli Knesset's recent preliminary approval of two bills that aim to impose Israeli sovereignty over the occupied West Bank and to legalize Israeli sovereignty over an illegal colonial settlement. The Kingdom reiterates its complete rejection of all settlement and expansionist violations adopted by the Israeli occupation authorities. In conclusion, the Kingdom calls on the esteemed Council to assume its responsibility for the implementation of the relevant resolutions.
ورفع الحصار بشكل
in order to end the protect the holy sites in Al-Quds al-Sharif and prevent any unilateral action that aims to change the identity of the Palestinian territory, and finally work towards the establishment of a Palestinian state in accordance with the relevant resolutions as well as the practical steps included in the New York Declaration. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Saudi Arabia for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Armenia.
Madam President, we thank the Presidency of the Russian Federation for convening the open debate on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question, and also express our gratitude to the briefers for their insightful statements. Historically, Armenia has always been genuinely interested in peace, stability, and security of the Middle East and the wider region, which, amongst others, hosts a sizable Armenian community who has always been a steadfast contributor to the progress and prosperity of the Middle East, enriching its cultural and civilizational palette. For years, the Republic of Armenia has been shouldering international efforts aimed at stabilization of situation in the Middle East, also as a troop contributing country to UNIFIL in Lebanon. Withdrawal from where must be executed in a well-calculated and orderly manner, as we should be mindful of the legacy the UN will leave behind, as well as what opportunities can be considered for further United Nations engagement with Lebanon. Madam President, Armenia has continuously emphasized that only two independent neighboring states can guarantee lasting stability, security, peace, and prosperity for both the Palestinian and Israeli peoples, where all enjoy the benefits of peaceful coexistence. With this in mind, and as a long-standing supporter of the two-state solution, Armenia recognized the state of Palestine in June 2024, and subsequently, during the 79th session of the UN General Assembly, established diplomatic relations with Palestine. In this vein, Armenia also participated in the high-level international conference for the peaceful settlement of the question of Palestine and the implementation of the two-state solution, co-chaired by France and Saudi Arabia, and endorsed the New York Declaration. Armenia has provided humanitarian aid to Gaza, also supporting life-saving activities of UNRWA. The Armenian side has also reached an agreement with the Palestinian authorities that the Mashtots Matanadaran, the world's largest repository of ancient Armenian manuscripts, museum and research institute, will temporarily become a shelter for endangered Palestinian manuscripts. Madam President, we welcome the agreement on the ceasefire in Gaza to ensure unimpeded humanitarian access and immediate release of hostages. Most importantly, negotiations must remain the only viable means of achieving a lasting and dignified peace in the Middle East based on the two-state solution. With this vision, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, welcomed and participated in the Middle East Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh upon the invitation of the US President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, supported by Qatar, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, and others. The Republic of Armenia stands ready to support all constructive efforts aimed at bringing just and lasting peace to the Middle East, the people of the region are craving for so long. I thank you. Благодарю, госпожа председатель.
I thank the representative of Armenia for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Mauritania.
شكرا السيدة الرئيسة.
Thank you, Madam President. Allow me at the outset to thank the Russian Federation for the diligent efforts in presiding over the Council this month. I also thank Mr. Al-Akbarov, Deputy Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, for his comprehensive briefing.
السيدة الرئيسة
في الوقت الذي أدانت به حكومة البلاد وبشدة حرب الإبادة الإسرائيلية في قطاع غزة والتي حصدت ما يقرب إلى 70,000 شهيدا أغلبهم من النساء والأطفال ودمرت مدن بكاملها وتوسعت لتشمل المنطقة بكاملها وخرقت بها سلطة الاحتلال السيادة الوطنية في لبنان واليمن وسوريا ودولة قطر. Yet my government hopes that the ceasefire in Gaza resulting from the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement reached on October 13th, that this agreement will lead to an end to the war against the Palestinian people and a definitive end of their humanitarian suffering. We also value the international and regional mediation efforts undertaken by the US, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey. We hope that this will be an opportunity to resume the political process aimed at establishing an independent Palestinian state along the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. This new chapter that starts with the implementation of the Sharm el-Sheikh agreement calls upon the international community, the UN, and especially the Security Council to intensify ensure the stabilization of the ceasefire parallel with the implementation of other agreed upon provisions. In this context, my country renews its full support for UNRWA as a vital mechanism to assist it, outlined Israel's obligations regarding the presence of the UN and its agencies in the Madam President, but it is also a decisive moment to capitalize on the growing momentum and continued recognition of the Palestinian state to adopt a two-state solution as the only political and legal solution capable of ensuring lasting peace in the Middle East. Undoubtedly, the recent two-state solution conference held in New York, initiated by Saudi Arabia and France, is a clear evidence of the support this option enjoys. The Security Council's action to translate this international consensus into tangible steps on the ground is an urgent necessity for the Council to fulfill its role in maintaining international peace and security. Madam President, to non-aggression and non-violation of the sovereignty of any state. This is also an occasion for my country to reaffirm its support and solidarity with Syria, with Lebanon, and the state of Qatar in the face of the aggression and blatant violations of international law committed and continuously committed by Israel within the territories of these three countries. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of Mauritania for his statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting stands adjourned.
الكرام All right, good afternoon. Denise, can you hear us?
Yep, very
Great.
well.
Thank you very much, Denise. We have some journalists in the room, and we have a whole group that are following you online, and I will be asked, so we'll get going. We're delighted to be joined by our good friend Denise Brown, who, as you know, is the humanitarian coordinator and the resident coordinator for the United Nations in Sudan. We thought we would bring her in at the last minute today to talk to you about what is going on in Sudan. So, Denise, without further ado, I will give you the floor, and then we'll take some questions.
Good. Thank you, Stefan. Good afternoon, everyone. Look, over the past 24 hours, we've received multiple reports of an intensification in the fighting in El Fasher. As you know, as I said to you the last time when I spoke to you from Tawila, this is one of our humanitarian hubs, Tawila, which is about 50 kilometers away from from Al Fashir because it is one of the epicenters of the fighting. So again, we've received numerous reports of military advances, but I'm not in a position to confirm that RSF is completely in control of Al Fashir. Yesterday, a few hundred people arrived in trucks just outside of Tuwila. We don't have any information that suggests that they came directly from Al Fashir. Rather, they were already on the road, and their movement, the last movement, was facilitated. What we do know is that civilians escaping, fleeing Al Fashir are often held for ransom along the road, part of the road being controlled by militia. And for the civilians who arrived yesterday, the NGOs who received them, adults and children alike, dehydrated, malnourished, some injured, and all traumatized. So this situation really reflects what I told you a couple of weeks ago, again, when I was in Darfur. Civilians remain in Al Fashir, continue to try and flee, but the roads that they're taking, there are two main roads, are unsafe, and people arriving in very, very difficult, very bad shape. So not only are people deeply affected by that journey, but as we've said repeatedly, they are affected by the conditions in Al Fashir. As you remember, there's been a blockade for now over 500 days, a blockade of humanitarian assistance going in for those civilians. So I just want to reiterate, there are civilians in Al Fashir. It is a fact. And once again, and we've said it dozens of times, the UN calls on the RSF to allow safe passage for them. Reports of summary executions of unarmed men and civilians in Al Fashir. The RSF needs to demonstrate respect for international humanitarian law and let those people leave. Alternatively, they need to let us in. And we have asked for that multiple times. The UN is in dialogue with all actors in this war, but they have not guaranteed our safe passage. And as I said the last time, more than 128 workers killed since the war began in April 2023. We require those guarantees of safe passage. The humanitarian community, local, national, international, is doing its utmost to prevent sexual torture and sexual slavery, mostly attributable to RSF in those areas. Also, the blockade of humanitarian assistance and food aid in particular is tantamount to using starvation as a weapon of war. So it's an ugly situation to begin with, and people getting on a very dangerous road because we're not being given guarantees of safe passage. I want to highlight that it's critical that everyone understand that the humanitarian response is not a solution to this situation. We are there contributing to protecting civilians, but a solution absolutely needs to be found. I would also highlight that our funding situation, which is 27%, is not allowing us to respond to the needs of people who are traumatized, raped, and starving. We're also very worried about the fighting in the Kordofans. You'll have been following the situation.
Thank you very much, Denise. We'll now take some questions. Gabriel, Al Jazeera.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for the important briefing. Gabriel Zondo from Al Jazeera English. My first question is, are you in communication with the RSF about safe passage, or have communications totally cut off? Can you just give us some understanding of how those talks are going in terms of safe passage from your standpoint with the RSF?
Thank you. Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very confidential, but as the UN, of course, we are engaged in conversations with all actors. And again, we're repeatedly asking in different ways, through different forms, for safe passage. So dialogue is ongoing.
Thank you. Islam, Anadolu.
Thank you very much for doing this. Islam Doğru from Anadolu. You said humanitarians, helps is not the solution. So solution need to be found. What do you mean by that? Are you referring the UN Security Council or international community? So can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, my point is that we have thousands of aid workers, including UN staff, in very difficult environments. We are as close as 40 kilometers away from Al-Fasher, where there's intense fighting. We're doing our best to support people who've been starved, who've been raped, children not going to school. The last time I spoke to you, I spoke about the child soldiers that I saw during my trip to Darfur. It's the people of the Sudan who are suffering the consequences of this war. Those consequences are widespread. They're affecting not only individuals, but families and communities. And a peaceful solution needs to be found. I'm not saying who needs to find it. I'm saying that we need a peaceful solution because humanitarian response is not a solution to the war.
Thank you. Abdelhamid.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Abdelhamid Sayan from the Arabic Daily, Al-Quds Al-Arabi. The Secretary General in his press conference in Kuala Lumpur spoke about foreign intervention in Sudan. From your experience there, can you tell us a little bit more about foreign elements exacerbating the conflict in Sudan?
Yes, thank you. I think that's a question you need to address to the Secretary General. I'm the humanitarian person, not the political person. All I know is there's a war going on in this country, and the face of the war and the impact of the war is the people of the Sudan. Thank you.
My second question about children in Al-Fasher. How severe the suffering of the children in the area that had been run by the Rapid Support Forces?
Thank you. So in particular, inside Al-Fasher, we are not able to deliver humanitarian assistance. We're not able to deliver nutrition on for 500 days. So as I mentioned to you the last time, when I was in Tawila, the people we are receiving from there, and I saw it with my own eyes, but of course we have we've documented, we have the numbers of the thousands of children in those areas in particular who are severely malnourished. That's what's happening. Children not able to live in safety, not able to access the food that they need every single day. And so by the time they do get out, because again, we're not being allowed in, they're suffering. This is not moderate malnutrition, it's severe, which means children need to be hospitalized, and that's what's going on.
Thank you. Pam Falk.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Denise, for the briefing. It's Pamela Falk from U.S. News and World Report. You mentioned the hospitals, but the WHO, Dr. Tedros, had said that there's a cholera and a dengue outbreak that need to counter that into the areas. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Through WHO, these people, no matter where they are. But the issue is that while the vaccines may improve the protection, the conditions are such that cholera is going to continue. The camp, the internally displaced, I visited in their city. The source of drinking water, washing, personal needs, latrine is all one source. So that means we have not been able to address the source of the cholera.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Gabriel Zoner from Al Jazeera English again. Can you give us an estimate on how many people you think are stuck in Al-Fasher right now, unable to leave? And can you also, you said that people are showing up in Tawila in very bad shape. Can you give a little bit more details of what you mean by that?
Numbers are very difficult to give you. Our estimates could be anywhere from 120,000 to 400,000. That's what we've planned on. We've planned on the higher scale, but we haven't been allowed in, so we don't know. When we say people are coming out in bad shape, it's exactly what I said earlier, particularly the malnutrition. But what we're seeing is not just children who are severely malnourished, but the adults are malnourished as well. We also have recent arrival, which, you know, it's much more difficult to look at someone and say you're traumatized. But the protection services that we're able to provide, particularly through the NGOs, are giving us that feedback. So people arriving physically and emotionally exhausted.
Thank you. Islam?
You said you needed a safe passage from El Fashir. If you get that, where are gonna people go? Is there any safe place outside El Fashir? And also, what is the situation in other cities or all over the country in terms of refugees and forcefully removed people?
Yeah, thank you very much. 1,000 people displaced. We're working with the IOM, who has a data tracking management tool, which shows us where people are moving. So we're going to have to adjust our response. So we will do our best with the resources we have to support people wherever they show up. Sorry, can you repeat your second question, please?
And my second question was about overall the country. What is the situation, humanitarian situation, other than El Fashir?
Yeah, thank you, because it's not just El Fashir. El Fashir is top of the news, but also in the Kordofans, places like Kadugli, places like Bara. I hope to be there. I'm going to cut short what was my brief holiday to go back and head out towards the Kordofans, and we hope to have some good news on a UN humanitarian convoy heading in that direction this week. So we also need to be looking not just at Darfur, but also the Kordofans and also Khartoum, which has suffered a lot of destruction, and a lot of the cholera and the dengue fever is actually in Khartoum.
Okay, Abdelhamid, then we'll start to wrap this up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Denise. Second question about refugees. You know, there are about 4 million Sudanese had left the country, but there are also refugees from other countries in Sudan, like Eritreans, South Sudan, and others, probably maybe about 1 million or more. So what can you tell us about the foreign refugees in Sudan? Are they now receiving any aid, or are they fleeing the country, or there is a reaction by the local against foreign refugees? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdelhamid. You're absolutely right. There's about 1 million refugees from other countries who are in the Sudan, mostly towards the south. They've been there for some time. Of course, this is UNHCR's mandate. We're having trouble providing for their needs as well. That's part of the humanitarian response plan, which is 27% funded. So yes, we're not able to cover everyone's needs, whether they're the Sudanese displaced or refugees from other countries.
Okay, just one second. Any questions online? Okay, go ahead, Gabriel, and then we'll close it. We'll let you go, Denise. Hold on a second, Evelyn. Go ahead.
Just a very quick one, Denise. If you were able to get safe passage to El Fashir, how much aid could you get in, and how quickly?
We have had 42 trucks on standby filled with. We are ready. They are on standby.
Great. Denise, I know you have to go. You've got the meetings. I really appreciate you doing this on short notice. And please come back virtually whenever you can and whenever it's useful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you all. You obviously just heard Denise, but I wanted to add and flag to the comments the Secretary General made in Malaysia earlier this morning. In responding to a question about speak clearly to all countries interfering in the war and providing weapons to the warring parties, urging them to stop. The Secretary General noted that the problem is not only the fighting between the Army and the RSF, but also the growing external interference that undermines prospects for a ceasefire and a political solution. Amid these developments, the humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate, as you heard from Denise just now. The Secretary General has mentioned, just wrapping up, his program in Malaysia, where he took part in the ASEAN UN Summit. In his remarks at the summit, the Secretary General condemned once again the bloodshed in Myanmar and urged all parties to halt the fighting, protect civilians, and allow unimpeded humanitarian access, and also to engage in an inclusive political process. The release of those arbitrarily detained, the Secretary General said, including the democratically elected leaders in Myanmar, is essential. The Secretary General told ASEAN leaders that under current instability, earlier in the day, the Secretary General held a press conference in which he reiterated his call for an immediate end to the violence. Credible path back to civilian rule. Turning to climate, the Secretary General said the stakes are very high for Southeast Asia, where climbing temperatures, rising seas, and worsening storms threaten lives, they threaten livelihoods, and entire communities, if not countries. Next week, when leaders gather in Brazil for COP30, they must agree on a credible plan to close the gap to 1.5 degrees and mobilize $1.3 trillion annually in climate finance by 2035. That's for developing countries, he said. Also today, the Secretary General delivered remarks at an event to mark the 80th anniversary of this organization, organized by Malaysian authorities. All those remarks were shared with you. The Secretary General will be heading back to New York shortly. Also over the weekend, yesterday, we issued a statement in which the Secretary General welcomed the joint declaration between Cambodia. The Secretary General expressed his appreciation for the important role played by Malaysia as chair of ASEAN and the United States in facilitating this declaration. We're committed to supporting all efforts aimed at promoting peace, stability, and development in the region. And just for the record, and taking you back to Saturday when the Secretary General was in Hanoi and took part in a high-level event marking the opening for signature of the UN Convention Against Cybercrime. In his remarks, the Secretary General said the new convention is a powerful, legally binding instrument to strengthen our collective defenses against cybercrime, added that it is also a promise that fundamental human rights such as privacy, dignity, and safety must be protected both offline and online. Over the weeks, in our legal department's treaty section, they tell us that the number is one of the most significant for a multilateral treaty deposited Secretary General in the last 10 years. As the Secretary General said during a press conference in Vietnam, we must turn signatures into action. And want to flag the situation along the Blue Line, which, as you know, lies between Israel and Lebanon. I can tell you that we are very concerned about the incident that occurred on Sunday in which an Israeli drone dropped a grenade in the vicinity of a UNIFIL patrol and subsequently